Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. So today I am going to do a video on something I promised I would do for you a long time ago because I had a few people ask me to do a video on alcohol inks. Now this is a medium that I have used a lot in the past, although not in a very traditional way. Throughout this video I'm going to put up some slides of some work that I've done actually years ago using alcohol inks in a little bit of a different way. I'm going to show you the more traditional way to use them today, and then I'm going to show you kind of a how-to of the less traditional way that I use them. And next week, I think we're going to do some alcohol inks on the Gelli plate because you can use them on there. And I kind of want to do a comparison of the methods that I'm going to show you today on the traditional Yupo paper, which is a synthetic paper. So alcohol inks are excuse me, an ink which is a pigment that is suspended in an alcohol solution. These are not water soluble and they require a non-porous surface for their more traditional application. So, and I'll show you all of this in just a moment. So the paper that we use for this is Yupo paper, or you can also use something called Duralar, and those are just synthetic sheets of paper, which basically just means thin sheets of plastic. These are also good on, you could use them on acetate, you can use them on glass, and basically anything that is a non-porous surface. Now I'm going to show you how to use them on canvas a little bit later, but for now I'm going to just show you some basic techniques on the Yupo paper. We're going to need very few tools for this other than the Yupo paper. You're going to need your alcohol inks, and I have some various colors set aside here. There's something called blending solution, which does just what it sounds like, and it causes the colors to blend and move around a little bit on the paper. Although I have found that just plain rubbing alcohol, which is what I have in these containers, this is a little spray bottle and this is just an eyedropper, works just as well. And I honestly don't typically use the blending solution a lot, although I did for today's purposes just to show you what it does. Other than that, the only other materials that I'm going to be using are a straw and this little sponge tool, and I'll show you what we're going to do with all of those in just a moment. So I hope you enjoy, and if you have any questions, as always, just let me know in the comment section. Let's get started. Okay, so for the next series of experiments, I just took a sheet of that Yupo paper and I cut it into 4 pieces so as not to waste a lot of it. It is a little pricey. You can find it, I think Michael's sells it. I definitely ordered this off of Amazon, so I will add a link to the description for you if you're interested, along with, you'll find links to several other of my commonly used items here. But I chose a few of the inks and pulled them out, and I am just dripping them directly onto that synthetic paper. And you can see how it's already starting to kind of bloom and spread out. That's the alcohol that's causing that to happen in the pigments there. I'm adding a little bit of the blending solution, and it's going to just allow a little bit more movement of those colors. You can see I'm picking it up and physically just kind of tilting and letting those colors blend. But look at the intensity of those colors. That's the one thing that I love about these inks, is just the sheer intensity and beautiful jewel tones that you get. I mean, there's just really kind of nothing like that, and that's what initially drew me to this particular kind of ink. The colors will blend on their own some. With the blending medium, it helps along even further, or like I said before, you can just use straight rubbing alcohol and get the same result. So for this next experiment, I am spritzing that sheet of Yupo paper just with a little bit of alcohol to get started with. I'm adding down some more colors here. The alcohol is going to cause it to start spreading around much like it did the last time, but this time we're going to take the straw, and I'm going to show you what happens when you blow these inks around on the surface. Now, because it is an alcohol base, it dries very, very quickly, so you don't have a lot of working time. In fact, other than just a little tiny bit of dampness near the bottom, that is already dry. But you can go back in and add more ink to the surface, and it reactivates what's already down there. And you may notice that it's actually pushing the bottom layer of the ink around. The colors do blend a little bit, but mostly it's moving those other colors out of the way to make room for itself, whatever you're putting down on the paper. I'm just Sprinkling a little bit of alcohol on top to show you that technique. The same thing happens. It pushes the ink around. You're never going to get a perfectly white background again, but it will lighten the background if you put just the alcohol down. You can see that big spot in the middle there just for demonstration. And I'm putting that wild plum color down there, which I love. And you can add these on top of themselves and get different rings of like a gradation of color if you want. A lot of people use that to do florals. There's a lot of really cool techniques, a lot of great videos out there on this media. I've probably watched, oh my goodness, so many of them when I first got them. I actually found them in an art store that was going out of business and they were super cheap, so I bought them all and that's how I discovered them, but they are so much fun. Okay, doing another little experiment here. That color I believe is called moss. It's like a nice gray-green color, and one fun thing about these is you can mix colors that you wouldn't necessarily think would work great together. This color is called eggplant and it's like a nice deep purple color. But the intensity of the colors is such that everything kind of works well together. Now, don't get me wrong, you can definitely get a muddy mess if you just keep squeezing the drops on top of each other into a giant puddle. Sure, you're going to get an ugly, muddy mess. But if you just kind of let everything play next to each other and just kind of slightly mix, I mean, look at that. It's actually kind of beautiful, the colors that you can come up with. Using the straw there again to kind of blow things around and see what kind of movement I can get. And I'm adding a little bit more ink right around the edges there. And you can see, much like watercolor, if you put water right up to the edge of a portion that you have painted with watercolor, you can reactivate it and get it to spread out and get some lovely diffused designs. You can also do that with regular rubbing alcohol or with another color of an ink with this particular media. But you can see also how there were those striations down the middle there that were dark, but then when it dries, they do diffuse out a little bit and the edges get like kind of soft and it's just a very, very lovely technique. Like I said, this dries almost instantly, but I'm going back in now just with an eyedropper full of some rubbing alcohol and letting gravity help me kind of drag those colors down, and the alcohol is going to further diffuse everything and make it just a little bit lighter and a little bit softer. Okay, this is probably my favorite technique to use with this, and I mentioned in a video last week how I use these to make Christmas ornaments, which I'm going to show you at the end here. So that's my little sponge dabber there, and I'm just putting some ink on there and dabbing it on, and you can see these really cool little patterns that it makes. Now you'll see that blue that I put on top of the wild plum, that color is called Stream. It's another one of my favorites. You can notice when it hits the pink, it's pushing that pink color out of the way. Some of it is mixing to create this really pretty purple color, but some of the blue is actually staying in its blue state. And you can just get all kinds of different techniques just with these really simple and inexpensive tools. I think I got this sponge set I think I got these ones at Michael's. You can definitely order them on Amazon. They're super, super cheap. Now, eventually the alcohol ink will erode the sponge down, but you can get a lot of use out of them before you have to throw them away. I just always make sure to use the same colors because, like I said, the ink will reactivate itself. So you don't want to put, I wouldn't want to put like a green on top of that red sponge and then just get some kind of color that I'm not expecting. So try to use the same colors or at least very like colors on the same sponge. But they're inexpensive, like I said, so it's no problem to kind of just have a whole bunch of them rolling around there. But look at that technique. You can use this to make greeting cards. I used to use them to make bookmarks, which I'll show you at the end. And I'm just going to kind of show you the pieces that I did here side by side and the different techniques that we use today. I just can't look at the colors. The colors are mind-blowingly vivid and so bright and beautiful. There are a lot of things that you can do with this media. And you can see here, this is one of the first pieces that we did, and I'm just going back in and reworking it. You can kind of do this as much as you want, especially once everything is dried. And like I said, that happens very quickly. You can just go and add more layers and more layers. And if you're using this little spouncing technique here, you can get really intricate little cell designs, which is awesome in my opinion. Okay, so this is the canvas that I was talking about. This is one of those cheap super value canvases that I bought at Michael's. For some reason, whatever they're primed with seems to work best with these. And if you don't have those and you're going to prime your own, I've found that if you coat them with a coat of that kills paint that you can get at either Home Depot, Lowe's, or Walmart. Whatever is in that, it creates a wonderful surface that the inks work well on. So I've just been going along here, dripping a bunch of ink down the top and letting gravity drip it and drag it down to the bottom. I'm adding some more alcohol in to encourage the flow. So while I'm doing this, this is a good time to mention, you probably noticed that I don't have gloves on in this segment, and I did in the other ones. I forgot to put them on, and this was yesterday, and my hands are still covered. This stuff stains everything. It will stain your hands, it will stain your clothes, your countertops, everything that it touches, and it does not come out. So prepare your work surface, maybe put a plastic sheet down of some kind, even just a plastic shopping bag would work. There is no maybe about it. Your hands will get stained. Also, you're going to want to use these, I should have mentioned this in the beginning, in a very well ventilated area. There is quite a bit of smell associated with them, and it's alcohol. So, I mean, you will get lightheaded, and you do not want that to happen. Very, very important to either wear a respirator mask or make sure you have some windows open to diffuse those fumes. Don't use them around an open flame because, again, alcohol fumes do ignite, and you do not want to have some sort of unfortunate fire incident happening. But yes, I think I've covered all the safety things there. Just be smart about it. Well ventilated, no open flames, and wear gloves. So I'm going in there with a little bit of yellow now just because I felt like it needed to be warmed up a little bit. And you can coat an entire canvas in this way. And this is a way that I used to start all of my mixed media pieces, which I'm going to be showing you here shortly at the end. You can get a really great background, and these have almost like a stained glass quality to them. I don't know if you can see that there, but I really love the way this looks. You can go back in once you lay it flat and add some little drops of alcohol. You can also go back in with some more ink once it's laying flat there, and the same thing is going to happen. It's going to push those inks underneath out of the way, and you're just going to get a really beautiful design. These are a pretty forgiving media. If you don't like what you did there, like I don't particularly like those giant splotches that I put on there, so I'm just going to go back in with some alcohol and diffuse that right back out again and kind of just, I don't want to say erase, but change and soften and change the colors up until you get something that you love. Okay, but here are some of those Christmas ornaments that I was talking about. Look at the vivid colors of these. You can apply them with a paintbrush like I did in this one here. These next series I did just using the sponge technique that I showed you. I just went through and picked a color to start with and then added little dots of colors all the way around. I do spray an acrylic spray on these so that they are durable. But you can get some great results, and I highly recommend you try this. These next pictures are of some glass bottle lights that I made. I ordered little cork lights, which are little string lights that have a cork looking thing on top with an on-off switch. I just recycled these from a bar that I used to work in and did the same technique that I did using those ornaments, and they turned out great. I have sold many of these over the years. Coming up next here is the bookmarks that I was telling you about. I literally just made my designs on the Yupo paper, cut it into strips, and put a little bit of a black edging around with a large black Sharpie marker. And the next images are just some mixed media pieces that I've done through the years. This works really well using Posca or Micron pen on top of it, as I've done in some of these pieces here. And the colors, again, are just super vivid, and I just couldn't be more excited about this media. I hope you all give it a try, and thank you all so much for sticking around with me through this video. Next week we'll play with these inks on the Gelli plate and see how that compares. If you're interested in taking a look at some more of my work, please check out my Etsy shop, which is linked in the description, or my Instagram or Facebook business page. And as always, thank you all so very much for joining me. And give me a thumbs up if you liked what you saw, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and I look forward to seeing you again next week. Have a great day.